I think we're going to start with we're going to start with Joe Biden's soft bigotry of low expectations. The things he has said now about Ketanji Brown, KBJ, who I think she got confirmed, and what he had to say about her confirmation process. We're going to notice a theme also throughout today's 3 stories: confession through projection, and accuse your adversary of doing what you are doing so as to create confusion. Joe Biden comes out and says, "You know what? Forget it. We don't even need to guess what he says. Let's go hear what Joe Biden said, and then we're going to get into more of the stories. Let's just see here. Let's pause that. You know, it's coming to the end. Yes. Let's just make sure that we're centered in the screen here. Son of a beasting. I can't see this. StreamYard. Yeah, then people say like, oh, the pace of the car vlogs is too fast. Then the pace of the streams are too slow. We're just going to mix it up. We're going to mix it up, and people are going to like it. And if they don't like it, they're going to be conditioned to like it. Okay, let's hear what Joe Biden has to say.
I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I knew the person I nominated will be put through a painful and difficult confirmation process. But I have to tell you, what Judge Jackson was put through was well beyond that. There was verbal abuse, the anger, the constant interruptions, the most vile, baseless assertions and accusations. In the face of it all, Judge Jackson showed the incredible character and integrity she possesses. Poise. Poise and composure. Patience and restraint. And yes, perseverance and even joy. Even joy.
I'm on mute. I put it on mute so we wouldn't hear any echo. Can we all appreciate what we just heard there? She was put through baseless accusations, verbal abuse, constantly interrupted. I'm going to get to the bigotry of low expectations in a second, but let's just stick with the confession through projection or accuse your adversaries of doing what you are doing so as to create confusion. Constant interruptions. Baseless accusations. Baseless accusations. Speaking of baseless accusations, speaking of accusations that came out of the blue from allegedly 35 years earlier, speaking of abuse. But does anyone remember this?
Dr. Ford, with what degree of certainty do you believe Brett Kavanaugh assaulted you?
100%.
What is the strongest memory you have?
Let's just get to. I want to skip some of this because
Are you aware that the 3 people at the party besides yourself and Brett Kavanaugh have given statements under penalty of felony to the committee?
Yes.
And are you aware of what those statements say?
Yes.
Are you aware that they say that they have no memory or knowledge of such a party?
I don't expect that PJ and Leland would remember this evening. It was a very unremarkable party. It was not one of their more notorious parties because nothing remarkable happened to them that evening. They were downstairs. And Mr. Judge is a different story. I would expect that he would remember that this happened.
I categorically and unequivocally deny the allegation against me by Dr. Ford. This whole 2-week effort has been a calculated and orchestrated political hit.
But I don't think we need any more memory than that. Can you appreciate the absolute? It's not even projection. It's not projection because it's not subconscious. This is deliberate. This is accuse your enemies of doing what you are doing, so that they can't then turn around and say, no, this is exactly what you did. This is your exact MO. He accused them. He accused the Republican. I watched enough of that hearing to know that, other than some hard questions, other than some typical back and forth that you would expect in, I guess it's adversarial, but in a confirmation hearing where some people don't agree with the appointment, I presume that there would be, some back and forth. Verbal abuse, baseless accusations. What were the baseless accusations, actually? I'm curious. What were the baseless accusations against KBJ? What were the baseless accusations? That she let people off easy with easy punishment for the most heinous of crimes? That's not an accusation. That's a fact. And then the only question is whether or not her explanation for that conduct, is palatable, is salvageable with someone who's going to be holding a seat on the highest court of the land. Baseless accusations and verbal abuse. They literally accused Brett Kavanaugh of being a criminal, of running, I believe train was one of the words that they used, for something that allegedly occurred 35 years ago, after this man has served in public life for decades, been investigated by authorities and intelligence multiple times, and they have the audacity now, after what was a relatively tame confirmation hearing by the standards of Kavanaugh, by the standards of Clarence Thomas, what was a relatively tame confirmation hearing, and then to portray it as though it's exactly what they did to Kavanaugh, to Clarence. I don't know who they did it to in between because I really wasn't politically conscious back then. Outrageous. But I'm going to get to the soft bigotry of low expectations, or as I like, now just think of it as bigotry of low expectations, or just bigotry. As good as you look with short hair, the wild mane has become something of a trademark. It may not be so easy to cut in the future. I tend to agree. I'm just going back to childhood. Life is a circle. Your number of subscribers hasn't increased since after the convoy. Do you think that you are being shadow banned? Look, I've noticed it. It's been just bouncing up and down, but I picked up 100,000 subscribers in a month during the convoy. On the one hand, I think it's normal that some people who found me because of the Ottawa convoy and then, discovered that I don't only cover convoy and only Canadian issues, they might have tuned out. I have no doubt that there were tons of bots that were, jumping onto accounts to post comments and whatever. You can't pick up 100,000 subs in a month and then, get stagnant a little bit and then think the system's out to get you. I've had the thought, but then I have to put it into realism so as not to just try to satisfy my ego and how, seeing numbers plateau feels. There's probably a more logical explanation other than being shadow banned. You pick up 100,000 subs and you get, I think it was like 7 million views in a month. Some people who tuned into you because of the Ottawa convoy and now see you going back to American politics, they're going to tune out. They're going to unsub, and YouTube's going to clean up bot subscribers in the first place. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm not complaining. This community is more than I ever could have imagined or asked for in the first place. One more. Ken Goodman. I can't wait until enough states recall their electoral votes. Well, we'll see. The funny thing is, and it's going to bring us into Whitmer. That which has been censored has now, in recent memory, more often than not, if not exclusively, actually turned out to be true. So it takes time. Think of all of the examples of things that have been censored, blocked, suppressed, removed from YouTube, and think about how those stories have ended up. We'll get to them in a second when we talk about Whitmer. The soft bigotry of low expectations. Share screen. I'm going to go back to this for a second. It's in the beginning part, because that was my ultimate point of the tweet. Listen to this.
I knew it wouldn't be easy.
It wouldn't be
But
easy.
I knew the person I nominated will be put through a painful and difficult confirmation process.
Painful and
But I have to tell you,
By the way, telling someone how to feel, because I did not look at that and come away thinking that anyone who had gone through that should have found it painful and, what was the other word he said? Painful and...
but I have to tell you, process. Difficult confirmation process. A painful and difficult confirmation process.
I didn't find it painful and difficult.
But I have to tell you,
I'm sorry. I found certain parts of it painful and difficult to watch and listen to, but not to undergo. Although 3 days of examination, I mean, that's a long time.
what Judge Jackson was put through was well beyond that.
Oh, really?
There was verbal abuse, the anger, the constant interruptions, the most vile, baseless assertions and accusations.
I'm sure glad that Justice Jackson has Biden to protect her. Can you imagine suggesting that what KBJ, I want to say KGB, what KBJ went through would be too much for someone who's supposed to be sitting on SCOTUS hearing the worst of the worst types of cases? That it would be too much for her? When I hear, I don't want to pull the gender or race cards. When I just hear somebody coming to the defense of somebody else who hasn't asked for that defense, I immediately get a little suspect. It's either virtue signaling, white knighting, I believe is the term as well. It's also the soft bigotry of low expectations to look at KBJ and say that she's so sensitive, so frail, that she somehow was offended, ought to have been offended, or that Joe Biden is offended for her, and that she can't deal with it. She can't deal with it on her own. She needs big old Joe, the big guy, to come in and come to her rescue, because she can't do it on her own. She needs Joe to do it. And it's, I say again, with the soft bigotry of low expectations from Biden, because I mentioned it before. I noticed it before in the administration's ban on flavored cigarettes. I don't know if anybody remembers this one. The administration said that they were banning flavored cigarettes. One obvious reason was for children. And that makes sense. In Canada, they've outlawed edibles that look like gummy worms and things like that, because there's a risk that children are not going to know what they are. They're going to come in contact with them, or they're going to be more drawn to them because they look like kid candy type things. The Biden administration said we're going to ban flavored cigarettes because on the one hand, it entices kids to do it and get addicted at a young age, and on the other hand, they're more prominently used among minority communities, the Black population and the Asian population, I believe. They said we're going to ban this, and the rationale, the justification from the administration is it's dangerous for children and it's dangerous for minorities. As to treat ethnic minorities like children. That's what the administration did. That's their justification. Had they just said, no, we're just doing it for the children, fine. Adults are supposed to protect children. Adults are not supposed to treat other adults like children by virtue of their race, ethnicity, or religion. And that is exactly what the Joe Biden administration did when they come out and said, we're banning flavored cigarettes because of children and because they're more predominantly used by minorities. And I believe it was the Black population and the Asian population. And people in the comments like, yeah, great. Now you're so racially tolerant. You just deprived a minority of what they choose to use. So only regular cigarettes for you guys. Sorry, I know you like the other stuff, but we know better for you than you know for yourselves. And that's exactly, mutatis mutandis, what Joe Biden is doing here. Sorry, KBJ, I know better what you find offensive. I'm going to speak out in your defense because you, a babe in the woods, are incapable of doing it on your own, and you need me to come and protect you. Soft bigotry of low expectations, or bigotry pure and simple.